She's a monster. She is convicted on murder, drowning beautiful babies. Hey everybody, it's Lisa and welcome to the Search, Crime, and Conclusion. How is everybody doing today? If you are new here, I want to welcome you. We talk all crime. I like to focus a little more on missing and unsolved, but I also dabble in Lisa's angle, which is basically my opinion on trending events, just to kind of give it a little bit of a variety. And anybody returning, thank you so much. We are growing and we are really getting out there, and that's all that I can ask. And I will continue to work as hard as I can to bring you the most updated and most accurate information that I can. With that being said, y'all, I cannot believe, I don't know if we're doing a Gypsy 2.0 that we got to get ahead on or what, but Susan Smith, if you have not already heard, is coming up for parole on November 4th, y'all, this year. And for some of y'all, if you do not know who Susan Smith is, let me catch you up before we get into this being released on parole. I do want to tell you that this one is very, very terrible. She's a monster. Sometimes you just don't think it can get any worse. This is a pretty tragic case, and to think that parole is allowed is why we're going to talk about it. Susan Lee Smith was born September 26, and she is convicted on murder for the two sons, Michael and Alexander. Michael at the time was 3 years old and Alexander was 14 months old, and they passed away through drowning. So Susan Smith, she gained this international attention because Smith's false claim that a black man had hijacked her car and kidnapped her sons.
More than 8 days since Susan Smith claims a carjacker stole her two babies.
I would like to say to whoever has my children that they please bring them home to us where they belong.
Now this, guys, was 30 years ago. It was on October 25th in 1994. She claims that basically she was on her way somewhere and she came to a stoplight. I'm going to make this kind of brief, but basically she came to a stoplight and that a man got out and wanted to take the car and took it with the kids. That's what she reported in, called her mom. And so to just make it short, for 9 days, they searched for this black man that she had described. They could not find the car. They really went above and beyond to try to investigate. I mean, they had divers out, they had helicopters, they had everything. And this was national news. It was all over America. I mean, at the time, I don't want to tell my age, but I was around graduating high school at this time. So I remember it very clearly when it happened. Also, like I said, it was in Union, South Carolina. I grew up in North Carolina, South Carolina areas. So it was very familiar. The country was very sympathetic. Now, I want to give you a little background on her also, to tell you how we have got to her getting a parole. All right. So, and tell you what really happened. As you can imagine, because she's been sitting in jail for 30 years, that was a hoax story. She actually was in the middle of the divorce with a husband, David, who absolutely was just devastated. She'd married him actually in 1991, and they were divorcing in 1995. It had been very rocky on both due to infidelities, things like that. Still, at the time when the kids went missing, they did pull together. At the time she lived in Union County, she had been born and raised there. Smith's father died by suicide when she was 6 years old. At the time, Susan also did not do very well, kind of adjusting like with just her mom. Susan herself attempted suicide at age 13. Her mother then married a man by the name of Beverly Russell, which is a very relevant in this case that I'm going to tell you. Beverly C. Russell Jr. to be exact, who later was revealed she claimed molested her when she was a teenager. Now, we'll call him Russell. Russell was a local businessman who later gained a prominence in South Carolina's Republican Party and the Christian Coalition. Both Smith and Russell have stated that sexual relations between them continued until 6 months before she committed her murders. The reason I wanted to really make that clear is I will tell you that during the court, he did come clean that up until just a couple months before she committed the murder that he had sexual relations. But that's why you're not hearing allegedly. He did say it. This is no alleged. This did happen. So there was some things that went on in her childhood. It was not the best. There was a lot of mental issues going on with her. The mom, I don't feel like was very defensive of her, but that's here nor there. I'm just giving a background for people that are not familiar with the case. And of course, you know, the defense really worked on that she was abused. Sound familiar? So, anyway, on October 25th, 1994, Susan reported to police that her vehicle had been carjacked by a black man who drove away with her son still inside. For 9 days, she made dramatic pleas at national television for their safe return.
I would like to say to whoever has my children that they please bring them home to us where they belong.
However, following intensive investigation and a nationwide search for them, she confessed on November 3rd, 1994, to letting her car roll into nearby John D. Long Lake, drowning them inside. Now, her motivation was reportedly to facilitate a relationship with a local wealthy man, Tom Finley. Prior to the murders, he sent Smith a letter ending their relationship and expressing that he did not want children. She said that there was no motive, nor did she plan the murders, stating that she was not in her right mind. Later, revelations indicated that detectives doubted Smith's story from the start and believed that she had murdered her sons. By the second day of investigations, police suspected that she knew that their location and hoped that they were still alive.
Actually, I have to give credit to a maintenance man in the area who knew the traffic light where she says the kidnap occurred doesn't turn red if there's no cars at the intersection. It's always green. And she was saying that she was stopped there and that's where she was kidnapped. But when I confronted her with that, I finally got the truth out of her. And what I did, I gave her another avenue to go in. I gave her the avenue of, could this have happened somewhere else because the light would have turned green and you wouldn't have been stopped. And finally, after a while, she went down that road and said, yes, it happened over here 10 miles away at a little town. And so then I knew that probably had her foot in the door and that she probably was going to tell us later on what happened. The sheriff and I then decided, well, we'll tell her we had a surveillance of the place. When we did that, it kind of went down It went downhill for her, and she finally confessed.
Investigators started to search in the nearby lakes and ponds, including in John D. Long Lake, where their bodies were eventually found. Initial water searches, though, did not locate the car because the police believed that it would be 30 feet of shore and did not search further. I believe it ended up being like 122 feet. So it actually floated out a little further. It shows you how murky the waters were, that they were in there. See, they weren't saying anything. They were letting her make this like she was out on TV. But that just tells you this is a good example of a lot of that do true crime, that we think that we know maybe what's going on, or investigators aren't saying anything. Like I said, she was doing interviews and pleading and claiming this black man did it. And they were going along and doing questionings and doing leads, but they had already suspected and were doing things on the second day. So, they were working, and this was 30 years ago where they had less technology. All right. Anyway, she had claimed that the traffic light had turned red, causing her to stop at an otherwise empty intersection. However, it was determined that the light would not have turned red unless another vehicle was present on the intersecting road. This conflicted with her statement that she did not see any other cars there before carjacking took place. So basically, her story was so debunked so quick on that. Now, that was just kind of some factual information. But basically, her story life has been where she has been sexually abused. Her father committed suicide. She had made multiple attempts. She grew up in a small county. That county was about 8,500. A lot of people knew each other. She ended up being with a few guys here, there, but things just did not work out. And it just seemed like I'm okay as long as I'm with this man. Anyway, she finds David, ends up dating David, and David is not really approved of because he just wasn't from, I guess, a to-do family like they had, because like I said, her stepdad was, had a little prominence down there, which like he had the nerve to judge anybody. Okay, no, I don't think so. She gets with David and has these beautiful babies. I get so mad just thinking about it. She gets into working and she gets with a guy named Tom Finley. He's got money. It's what she wants. It's what's approved. There's infidelity going on and he did not want her. The basic story, without going any further, because this is more about the parole, is she basically, when he told her that he did not want to have any children, she decided that, well, if I do it like this, then I'll be the victim of losing my children instead of giving them to David and still being responsible. And then I'll be the victim, and then he'll console me and it'll work out in this fantasy and he'll rescue me. And I'm telling you, I feel like that I'm just like deja vu, and okay, like I'm just like I've heard these like things before, and the men over the kids, they'll just do anything. She claims now that she was in the car to begin with and that they were all gonna just go together because she could not live without them, and something caused her to just get out. And at the time, she couldn't stop the car to get the boys out, and then she just panicked. And the poor me, I just freaked out. I didn't know what to do, and I just hated myself. And that's how it happened. I want you to know that jury had no remorse. There were for different reasons of why she did not get the death penalty. The jury only delivered, I want to say, 2.5 hours, possibly. They knew, of course, that she could get life. All right, well, that's what they were going for. And I don't believe that they knew there would be an option of parole. I'm not exactly sure, but I don't believe that the jury knew. They just knew the option was life. They come right back, guilty as hell, y'all. Guilty as hell. Put her away. They give her life, but with the opportunity to get parole in 30 years, which is November 4th, 2024, is when she's available to get it. Now, let's get a little more into what this contains. Now, we do know, we don't want to say, well, that was a horrific crime. You're not going to give it to her on her first time. Well, we know that that can go many ways, right, guys? We're hoping. We're praying, and that's why I feel like let's start talking about it, guys. Let's start getting into this. There's stories out here on it that you can look and get really into it. This was a lot to talk about, that and the parole, so I wanted to just give an overview so nobody was lost talking, like a background. There's a lot of information out there that you can look at, and I definitely am going to be following this as we get closer to see how it looks. But I was a lot of information. I just more or less wanted to recap if you had never heard of the case. Some people younger may not have, because like I said, she's been gone 30 years. I apologize if it's bringing back any emotions, but this one has to be talked about because we have to make sure she does not get out on parole. Now, what we have on our side, and when I say our side, I say society's, to keep everybody safe, to keep her from walking, is that she was not a model prisoner, okay? She actually had some run-ins with drugs while being in there. She had sexual relations with 2 guards at 2 different times. Those guards actually got convicted on it. I believe one actually served some time in prison and one got probation. So, I mean, they're filed, convicted. It wasn't like, oh, a slap on the wrist, whatever. No, it went through. So, she does have some markings against her. I believe she has gone a few years at least. I don't know the exact amount of time without any infractions or anything, because she knows she's preparing to get ready for parole. They know what to do. We know this, don't we, guys? What we all been talking about. We know they know what to do. But I have been listening to some things, and some are really weighing in going, no, she will not get it between what she's done. Also taking accountability for her actions. Has she shown her remorse? Has she done things? And people are weighing in that know more what's going on in prison and saying, no way will she make it. Then, I've actually heard people interviewed, one that actually had a relationship with her in prison, that states everybody deserves a second chance, but he said, not yet, that she hasn't exactly done everything that she needs to do. There are people out there that do believe in reform and believe in second chances, and 30 years is a long. What I'm going on is she killed 2 babies, her own children. If you will kill your children, you will kill anyone. Anyone. No one is off. For a man, absolutely. You can see it in my eyes, absolutely makes me sick. I really genuinely, to the core, wanted to speak on this. I do not want her out. I do not want her to have a chance to even breathe our air. She even at one time, and I have spoke about this in other videos concerning, love in prison, she was even able to be on an app. Why would you let a woman who killed her children on a dating app, unable to talk to? I don't get it. I don't get it. And I am definitely going to be taking some deeper dives into things. I wanted to break the ice, find out your comments. I need to know what people want to know more about. Do you want to hear the full story? Because I do know the full story of it, but today I just kind of wanted to recap of why this is so important and why we are going to start talking a little more about while she is coming up for parole and what is it looking like. Now, her husband, who absolutely had nothing to do with any of this and knew nothing, will be there to speak against. Also, the prosecuting attorney at the time, 30 years ago, is now going to work with the solicitors, what they call them now down there. Those are 3 people that are going to be working hard to speak against her at the parole. And I hope even just the child's father alone words will work. They said that she's had, many men writing her, there goes that hybris affiliate, you know what I mean? It's crazy. So I'm not going to keep going on and on about this. So like I said, I need to know in the comments, what do you think about this situation? Guys, we got to stay on top of it. We got to make sure that she stays where she is supposed to. At the end of every video, I do a ribbon, and the ribbon represents a prayer for justice. So I've made 2 ribbons, one for Alex and one for Michael. I will see you on the next search. Thank you all for joining. Please remember to subscribe, share, and leave a comment. The comments help so much get the episodes out. We are almost at our 1,000 subs, and I'm so excited about it. I'm so ready to start doing some lives also. So leave everything down in the comments. Good night, everybody.